You just wrote a book called The Leader's Greatest Return. Yeah. And in there, we talk about developing leaders, really the level 4 influence in the 5 levels of leadership that we talk about so often. One of the things that we see in organizations that we help all around the world is this lack of leadership bench, the lack of succession planning when it comes to leaders. Talk about the importance of developing leaders, building succession plans in organizations in order for the organizations to really be scalable and sustainable beyond the leader.
Well, the depth of an organization is based on how many players you have that can really produce. I love college football. You love college football. Yeah. In fact, Chris has a son that's at University of Georgia as a tight end, an incredible football player. You know the difference between University of Georgia football and a small college football is the depth. Mm. If you go to the second team, you go all the way down the line, all of those players, they're good players. In fact, when they move players in and out, it really doesn't make much of a difference in the game because there's a depth, there's a quality there. And why is that? Well, one is they have gifts and talents. And so when you recruit people, I tell people, I wrote a book one time called Talent is Never Enough. Yeah. I've kind of always thought I ought to write another book, a sequel to that book. Talent is never enough, but it would be good to have some. Because, if you're a coach with a track and field team, and you got to have a high jumper, you don't need 7 people who can jump 1 foot. You need 1 person who can jump 7 feet. Yeah. And so so when you're recruiting in your company, obviously the talent that you attract to yourself is very important. But let me say something about depth and attraction and recruiting. It's also true, and the reason we try to develop leaders so much is because we attract who we are, not who we want. That's the law of magnetism, the 21 laws of leadership. Yeah. And Chris, what that means is we are so much in training and developing people because we know the better we develop your people, the better people they attract in their recruiting. And that is so essential for the depth of the team, for the longevity of the team. And it's wonderful. I mean, a quarterback doesn't get paid to run the ball. A quarterback gets paid to put the ball in the hands of the right person, whether it's a pass or it's a handoff. They get paid by knowing who to hand the ball off to. So the key of a successful team is to have people that can catch the ball and can run the ball. And the more that you train them and develop. Let me just say one more thing about this, because this is huge. Okay. We talk about people being our most appreciable asset. Yes. And in fact, as I'm talking to you, I'll bet every one of you right now, as you're kind of watching me, if I said the people in your company are your most appreciable asset, every one of you would say, check, that's exactly right. Because it's true. I mean, the buildings you build, they once you build them, they're built. It's the only thing that has potential of improvement is people. The human resources. Now, what's interesting to me is we'll say the most appreciable asset we have in an organization is people, and then we won't invest in people. We won't give the time in mentoring and training and bringing. I mean, if the most important asset in my company is the people, then I ought to be investing my time, my energy, my efforts, my plans. I ought to be investing my people to make them even more appreciable. Yeah. Which, what does that do? It then gives you, again, that depth that you're talking about in the team.
So building right off of that, a lot of organizations, a lot of leaders, when you begin to think about investing in your people, they say, hey, let's talk about the return on investment that I'm going to get for investing in my people. And while the easiest way to measure that, right, maybe is at that bottom line, the dollar and cents you can count to the penny. But where you can't measure it and where it shows up, really, is in the cubicles, in the creative thought process, in the things where they're innovating and all this kind of stuff. Talk a little bit about the leader perspective in organizations and the return on investment that they get for developing and adding value to their team members.
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that because I hear that too.
Yeah,
I hear that. Yeah. Sometimes it makes me mad and sometimes it amuses me because here's what I know, it's incredibly short-sighted. It's like I had a person one time say to me, well, let me tell you why I don't do a lot in training programs and development of people. He said, you find somebody like Chris and you pour into them and you train them and you invest money in them and they get good and then they leave. And they looked at me and said, what could be worse than pouring money into somebody on your team and they get better and then they leave you? And I said, well, I can tell you what's worse, not pouring money into them and having them stay. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you what's worse than losing somebody that's good, and that's keeping somebody that's bad. And so I think when we began to say, what's my bottom line? Okay, if you really want to real quickly increase your bottom line, cut expenses. Just cut expenses. Go find a program and cut it out. If you want to increase your bottom line, I mean, you can do that in a moment. By the way, the day you cut expenses, you begin to increase your bottom line. Now, let me ask you a question. Who did you ever know in a company that cut their expenses to the top? How did you become a great company? Well, we just kept cutting expenses. We just have less and less and less, and now there's just me. Well, you can't cut your expenses. You got to increase your investment in the right people in the right places to really build a company. And if people are the appreciable asset, I always say, put your money where your return is. Where is your return? Is your return in your buildings? No. Is your return in your systems? Perhaps. But I know this, it's the people in the systems, it's the people in the culture that make the company. So you better put your money right there.
You know, that made me think about a couple of things in regards to developing people. We say often in our organization as we're working with companies around the world, people will join your team for one reason,
yes,
but they're not going to stay for that same reason. So what are you continually doing to add value and develop the people? And I think the other thing you see there is that your people are your differentiator. You may have competitors. You may have people that do the same thing, but how you value your people, how you invest in your people, just like you said, creates that culture of engagement. Everything we're talking about here today, the engagement level, it breaks down silos, it increases communication, increases collaboration. Talk just a little bit about the importance of that culture and the process of building that culture, right? Law of the process, 21 laws.
Yeah.
It's just not about an event. Talk about that whole process of building that culture over time. And it really feeds into everything we're talking about today, from becoming a leader to developing leaders to that culture that we build.
No doubt, Chris. Well, I think all of us understand the value of culture. I mean, we all have heard the expression, culture eats vision for lunch. And it does. I mean, vision's very important. But remember, vision is all about where you're going, but culture is all about what you're doing. And I learned a long time ago, what you're doing determines where you're going. I've never seen a picture that was so compelling that you got there without behavior. I've never seen a picture that was so incredible. This is the mountain we're going to take. By the way, we don't have to be mountain climbers. We'll get to it because we see that picture real clearly. No. You get to the top of that mountain because you have a culture of behavior that teaches people how to climb a mountain. So when people look at culture, they have to understand that that's going to determine the success of the organization. And because it deals with people, when you deal with people, the good news is that's where your appreciable asset is. The bad news is it's a process. People don't get better immediately. Leaders develop daily, not in a day. And so that's why I tell people, for example, in training, if you use your programs of training as a program, okay, it's good, but it's not the best way. You ought to have a culture of training. In other words, you ought to say, if you come into this organization, one of the things we are going to do is we're going to invest in you to make you a better person, make you a better family member, make you a better communicator, and to make a better community person. We're going to make you a better member of our team and our company. And we all look at people, and when we start to invest in them and train them, and we just say, well, I think it would be easier to do it myself. And it is easier to do it yourself. And it's quicker to do it yourself. It's just not smart because you're going to be doing it yourself. It's like I talk about delegation. I say, if you delegate tasks, all you'll ever do in your organization is develop followers. Here's the task. Chris goes, does it, brings it back. Okay, well, here's another task. And after a while, honestly, I don't mean this to be depreciated. It's almost like playing fetch with a dog.
Yeah.
You got the ball and you throw it out. What's the dog? Brings it back. Tail's wagging. You throw it
again.
Can I tell you, that dog will wear you out. You just keep throwing, that dog keeps fetching. And let me tell you, and by the way, every time it comes back with a ball with a little slobber on it.
Yes.
If you want to develop leaders, you have to delegate authority. And to delegate authority means that you have to give them more time. You not only have to tell them what the decision is, you have to tell them why you made the decision. And the moment that I give my commitment to the process of people time to get that return, you see what happens with people is in the beginning of your investment, it's a very slow return, but it compounds. Developing people, that consistency and that time compounds. So what happens is that in the beginning, your return is less than your money. To be honest with you, in the end, your return of money is much greater than what your investment was, because that's just the way it works.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit today about communication in organizations. This is something that you talk about a lot, and you talk about the power of connecting with people as they communicate. Why is that so hard for people today in organizations?
Well, I think that most of us haven't been taught to really connect and communicate with people. And one of the things I teach very quickly is that if I'm going to if I'm going to connect with you, the first thing I need to realize is it's really all about you. And most people, when they communicate, they're asking themselves, am I doing a good job? And, are my words right? And they're too inward focused, and they're not enough outward focused. And to help leaders in companies understand this, basically I ask them this question, that is, are you trying in your organization to add value to yourself, or are you trying to add value to your team? You see, if I'm trying to add value to you, then the first thing I know is it's about you. It's not about me. Yeah. So if I'm trying to add value to you, the first thing I have to do is I have to find you. And the way that I find you is by getting common ground. Maybe a better way to say this, Chris, is when I started off as a leader, I was very directional. I was young, and I had vision, and I knew what I wanted, and so I'd grab somebody like you and say, come on, Chris, get on my team. Here's where we're going to go. And to be honest with you, I didn't find you. I just kind of drafted you. And so off you are, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. And then one day I realized I needed to stop directing and start connecting. Mm-hmm. And the way that you connect with people is by asking questions.
Yeah.
And so I began to ask questions. And that's when I began to understand also that you have to find people before you lead people. So once I know it's all about you, once I know it's all about adding value to you, once it's all about me understanding and knowing you and finding you, then all of a sudden the connection begins to happen, because guess what? All of those things are all about you. They're not about me, they're about you. Leaders understand it's always about the people. Once you connect with the people, once you get buy-in with the people, everything else works.
How would you say, from a communication standpoint, in times of conflict resolution, tough conversations, how would you encourage those in organizations that are leading people to be able to have those conversations and communicate with them effectively?
Well, again, as you're asking these questions, Chris, I'm cracking up, because everything I'm teaching you now, I didn't know in the beginning. In fact, everything I'm teaching you, I learned through my failures. And this is one of those areas of which I really came up short, because being relational, if you came on my team in the beginning, Chris, in my earlier years, I wouldn't deal with tough issues with you at all. I would try to be relational enough with you that you would like me enough that I would think after a while you would just kind of automatically find your way through the landmines of the organization and come out okay. And so therefore I didn't deal with the issues. I just thought, let's just love one another and hope. Well, hope's not a strategy. So, of course, after several times of that not working, I began to say, wait a minute, John, the first responsibility of a leader, Max Dupree says, is to define reality. And reality is that if you're working together as a team, you're going to have problems. That's the reality. In fact, in our John Maxwell company, Mark Cole, who does such a great job overseeing and CEO in it and running it, one of the things he helps everybody when they come on the team to understand is very simple, and that is, in the beginning, the first conversation I have with you, I say to you, we will have tough conversations. Now, you're hoping to be hired. It's kind of a high day if you're hired, and oh my, this is all wonderful, wonderful. No, we will have tough conversation. And I think that the moment that we address it in the beginning, first of all, we're honest with people, but also when it's time to have a tough conversation, it's not personal. Because I told you we were going to have tough conversations before I ever knew you. I told you we were going to have tough conversations before you messed up. I told you we were going to have tough conversations before you didn't do what I wanted to see you do on the team. So once I set that as the precedence, and you know that we're going to have tough conversations, when I say, hey, Chris, we got to have a difficult conversation now, it isn't like, oh my gosh, I must have done something terrible. Well, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, I don't know. But here's what I know. When you preset the questions and the issues on the front end, then when you get to them, it's not awkward, and then you can deal with those issues.
Yeah. Let's talk about employee engagement, right? There's a lot of talk and studies about the lack of employee engagement in organizations, the lack of trust. From your experience in speaking with different organizations, training different organizations, helping build leadership cultures, how would you see leaders increasing the employee engagement, right? In order for us to lead effectively, we have to have engaged employees.
Absolutely.
Whether we're leading volunteers, which you talk a lot about, whether it's team members, boards, whatever it might be. Talk a little bit about trust in organizations with your leaders. Talk about employee engagement and what that looks like.
It's interesting you asked that question, Chris. I just developed a teaching called How to Be a Leader That People Love to Follow. And in that teaching, I talk about first of all, when I began to work on this lesson, I asked myself, well, what are my feelings when I look at somebody that I love to follow? When I look at them, I say, I just enjoy being on their team. How do I feel? And I came to the conclusion there are three feelings I had when I followed somebody that I loved to follow, and that is I felt valued, I felt inspired, and I felt empowered. Now, I love these three because what that means is the leader is setting in the culture of the company such a beautiful environment that at all times I'm feeling valued, I'm feeling inspired, and I'm feeling empowered. And when you ask that question, you're talking when you start talking about trust, that's empowerment. And what I've learned many, many years ago is that as a leader, I have a choice. I can either be a command and control leader, and basically I've got to make sure that I run everything and I get credit for everything. And by the way, let me say, if you're a command and control leader, if you have to have control, you will limit the growth of your company. Because it's only a matter of time, because you have to be in on every decision. Well, that begins to slow the process down. To become what I call an empowering leader. And one of the qualities of an empowering leader, Chris, is that they trust people. And I was asked this the other day. It was amusing. A person, they were very sincere. They looked at me and said, okay, well then, how can you know if you can really trust someone? Well, the way they asked the question told me I already had a problem, okay? Yeah. But how can you know that if you really can trust someone? I said, well, the only way you could know that you can really trust someone is to really trust someone. Because only when I trust you are you going to be either proven to be trustworthy or not trustworthy. I don't know if I can trust you until I trust you. I've got to empower you. I've got to let you have I've got to be able to delegate some authority to you. I've got to let you run at the ball. I mean, how if you're a coach, how do you know the guy is a good runner? Well, give him the ball. How do you know he can block? Well, let him block. It's in the actions of the people and their behaviors. That's why John Wooden, the great coach, would tell his players, don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. But he let them show them. So empowerment is giving people a chance to prove that they're trustworthy. I love that. And then you know who you can trust. And by the way, if you have somebody you can't trust, either it's because you're command and control and haven't given them the opportunity, or it's because you got the wrong person. If you got the wrong person, you got to make that change. If it's command and control, you got to make the personal change. So I'm going to share with you what I call the 5 essentials to your business. When I say essential, that is a huge word. If something is essential, it's something that you need to continually do. It's not like you can lay it aside and ignore it for a week. If it's essential, it's what I call the everyday essential. What are the 5 things that I need to do every day? Wow. What are the 5 things that I have to do every day that will allow me to be successful in this incredible company? Well, here we go. I'm going to give you the 5 things because all 5 of these matter. These 5 things matter. They count. They're essential. Number 1, growth matters. If you want to do good in this business, you have to personally grow. I learned that at a very young age. I had a mentor who asked me one day, John, what is your plan for growth, personal growth? I had none. I didn't even know I was supposed to have one. No one ever said, John, you need to be intentional about your personal growth. I just thought if I just work hard and do my best, then I probably will, I don't know, kind of grow on my own. And that day I learned that growth is not automatic. Getting older, that's automatic. Growing, getting better, that's not automatic. Now, that was a life-changing day for me because that was the day I realized that I had to be intentional in my personal growth. Wow. My father, when I was young, and I told him that I wanted to be a speaker, he said, John, you put a lot of water in the well, so when you take your bucket, you have something to pull out of. In other words, what he was saying is, if you grow yourself, you see, we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. And he was saying, John, develop an abundance within yourself that you can constantly give and share and add value. You know, we cannot give to others what we do not have. So the first step of success is I have to get better so I can help you get better. I have to grow so I can help you grow. In fact, when people say, how do you grow the company? Well, you grow the people in the company. If you grow the people in the company, they grow the company. Well, here we go. I'm going to give you the 5 things because all 5 of these matter. These 5 things matter. They count. They're essential. Number 1, growth matters. If you want to do good in this business, you have to personally grow. I learned that at a very young age. I had a mentor who asked me one day, John, what is your plan for growth, personal growth? I had none. I didn't even know I was supposed to have one. No one ever said, John, you need to be intentional about your personal growth. I just thought if I just work hard and do my best, then I probably will, I don't know, kind of grow on my own. And that day I learned that growth is not automatic. Getting older, that's automatic. Growing, getting better, that's not automatic. Now, that was a life-changing day for me because that was the day I realized that I had to be intentional in my personal growth. Wow. My father, when I was young, and I told him that I wanted to be a speaker, he said, John, you put a lot of water in the well, so when you take your bucket, you have something to pull out of. In other words, what he was saying is, if you grow yourself, you see, we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. And he was saying, John, develop an abundance within yourself that you can constantly give and share and add value. You know, we cannot give to others what we do not have. So the first step of success is I have to get better so I can help you get better. I have to grow so I can help you grow. In fact, when people say, how do you grow the company? Well, you grow the people in the company. If you grow the people in the company, they grow the company. In fact, the first investment you should make is an investment in you. If you don't invest in yourself, why should anyone else invest in you? And if you don't believe in yourself enough to invest in you, why should anyone else believe in you enough to invest in you? Personal growth matters. So here I am. I'm 73 years of age. And I'm growing and learning and developing, and life is very good to me. And I'm continually learning, and I'm teachable. And there are some things that over my years of intentionally, personally growing that I've just realize that there are benefits of personal growth, and I don't have time to give you all the benefits of personal growth, but I'm going to give you, I don't know, 2 or 3, okay? Number one is personal growth keeps me in the game. It just does. And what I mean by keeps me in the game is this, that as long as I am learning and growing and adding value to myself, that I have something to add value to others. Again, I shared with you earlier, you cannot give what you do not have. And so my personal growth allows me to always extend a helping hand to others and say, here's where I'm growing, here's what I'm learning. Wow. Somebody on my team said the other day that, I've written 86 books. Well, I didn't start off to write 86 books. When I started off as an author, I really only wanted to write one book, and it took me so long to write that one that I thought, wow, thank God that's over. I don't think I'll write any more books, but I kept learning, I kept growing, and I kept having things to add value to people. And all of a sudden I said, well, I need to help people with this. So I wrote about this, and here comes another book and another book and another book. And one day I realized that all of my success in life is based on the fact that I've continually grown. In other words, I'm not a one-hit wonder. I'm not a one-book writer. In America, Debbie Boone sang a song that was a #1 hit for 6 months called You Light Up My Life. It was crazy. It was great, but she never had another hit. She just had one. And what I learned is that if I'm personally growing, it keeps me in the game. It allows me to have another hit and another book, and it allows me to grow in my business. Here's what I want you to know. The only guarantee in your life that tomorrow is going to be better than today is that you're growing right now. If you're growing right now, the sky is the limit. If you're not growing, pretty much you're just going to be doing what you've always done, so you get what you've always got. The second benefit of personal growth I've discovered is that it helps me just play the game better. It not only helps me get in the game, it helps me play the game better, because growth increases my capacity. As I learn more, guess what? I can do more. So I have continually, intentionally developed my own growth capacity. I had a mentor when I was young, and he was teaching me how to write. And so about my, I don't know, 4th or 5th book, when I got the new book, I went out to have dinner with him, and I took him the book and signed it to him and handed it to him. I was so proud of it. And he smiled, and he said, well, congratulations, John, on this book. And he looked at it for a moment with just an approval look on his face. But then he asked me a very important question. He said, John, is this your best book? I said, yeah, it's my best book. And then he said words that changed my life. He said, I'm glad, because he said, you're only as good as your last book. Never live off of yesterday. You've got to continue to grow and learn. And that's the difference. That's the difference between best and better. Every day I do my best, but tomorrow I expect to do better. And the only way I can do better tomorrow than my best today is I'm growing. If I'm not growing, I don't have capacity for better. I hit a limit. I hit a level, and then I stay right there. And I can't stay in the game, and I can't improve my game because I've hit my limit. So personal growth takes my best today and allows me to get better tomorrow. And there's just one other benefit that I just got to jump in real quick with you. And it not only helps to keep me in the game, it helps me to play a better game, but it also helps me to help others play a better game. Because when I get better, guess what? You get better, and everybody gets better because of that process. So I want to encourage you to understand growth matters, and that the atmosphere is affirming, and you're getting encouraged in that process, okay? This is huge. Maybe I need to tell you one quick illustration. Wow. When I was in my 20s, I heard Earl Nightingale say that if you spent 1 hour a day, every day on the same subject, in 5 years, you could become an expert on that subject. And I wanted to be an expert on leadership, so I said, I'm going to take him up on this project. I'm going to spend 1 hour every day on leadership. every day. I'm going to practice leadership. I'm going to ask leadership questions. I'm going to read leadership books. I'm going to talk to leaders. Okay, I'm just every day. And Earl Nightingale said in 5 years I could become an expert. Wow, I could be a leadership expert in 5 years. I was only in my 20s. By 30, I could be a leadership expert. So I started this daily personal growth, an hour every day on leadership, just studying leadership, practicing leadership. And every day I'd say, how long will it take? Well, Earl Nightingale said 5 years. Okay, I've been at 4 years, 3 years. Okay, you can see how long will it take? How long will it take? But about halfway in my 5-year project, something happened within me and I changed. And now I was no longer growing to become an expert. I was growing just to become better. And I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? And I started asking myself the question, how far can I go? Now, when you begin to ask yourself the question, how far you can go, and you commit your life to personal growth, I tell you, there is no finish line. You will grow farther and go farther than you could ever imagine. So in the power of 5, power number 1 is that growth matters. Power number 2 is connecting matters. Wow. The ability to connect with people, the ability to relate with people, the ability to have them identify with you. I tell leaders all the time that the leadership process is very simple. You have to find people, and then you have to connect with people before you can lead people. So you don't start off leading people. You start off by finding them, connecting them, and then leading them. And connection, it's the lifeblood of a relationship. It's the foundation of all relationships. So when I hear somebody talk about it's lonely at the top, they think that's a leadership expression, but it's not. If you're at the top all alone, you're not a leader. You may be a hiker, but you're not a leader, because leaders take people with them to the top. They go down in the valley, they find the people, they connect with the people, and then they say, let's go to the top together. It'll be slower that way, but it's a lot better because you're taking people with you. In my 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership book, I talk about the law of connection. The law of connection just says simply, leaders touch a hand before they ask for a heart. There's a law of buy-in in the 21 Laws of Leadership, and that is people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. Wow. In other words, connecting with people, relating to people is essential to the success of your business. And here's what many leaders fail to understand, that you don't connect with everyone the same way. And so I don't use what motivates me to motivate others, because that may not be motivational at all to them. In fact, in my book, The Leader's Greatest Return, I have a whole chapter on how to motivate, how to connect with people. And there are basically 7 motivations. I'm going to give them to you quickly because I want you to know them, because the people that you lead, they will be motivated by at least one, maybe 2 or 3, but at least one of these motivations. And what you need to do as a leader is you need to find out what that motivation is, because when you find out what motivates a person, that's where you lead them according to what motivates them, not according to what motivates you or what motivates me. So let's watch this. Here we go. The 7 motivations of people are as follows. Number 1 is purpose. In other words, sometimes people are motivated because they just feel that they were created for a purpose or for a reason. And I would tell you that everyone is created for a purpose and a reason. And when we discover our purpose, somebody said there are 2 great days in a leader's life: the day they were born, and secondly, the day they discovered why they were born. When you discover that why you were born, you begin to discover your purpose. And when you discover your purpose, you get energized. People that have found their purpose have energy. You don't need to give them any energy. They are energized by the fact that they were doing what they are meant and created to do. The second motivation of some people is autonomy. A lot of people, they want to be their own boss. They want to have freedom. They want to be able to control their own life. Wow, that's just absolutely huge. In fact, many of you are in unique business because you didn't want to work for a boss, and you didn't want to have your hours set and your income set. You wanted to be an entrepreneur, and you wanted to have some freedom, and you wanted to go out and try something that you thought perhaps could help you to be successful in life. Well, you're motivated. You're motivated in that area for autonomy in your life. You want that freedom, okay? The third motivation is relationships. There are some people who just want to do life with other people. And as long as they have friends and relationships, as long as they're on a team, they're happy. They don't want to be the Lone Ranger. They don't want to be doing their own thing. They want to do it with people that they really love. In fact, they think there's nothing better than doing what you love with people that you love. And so they're connected and they're tied into relationships, and they're all bought into this, and they just love doing things with people. So that's their motivation. They want to be part of a team. And another motivation is progress. There are some people, what they're really motivated with more than anything else is the fact that they're accomplishing something. When I was in college, I had to work my way through college, and one of the things I love to do, now this sounds a little crazy, I love to paint houses. And so I would paint a home to make some money. And what I loved about painting houses is every day I could see my progress. Every day I could look and say, wow, I started over here in this corner. Look, I got halfway across the day. Woo, tomorrow I think I'll be able to finish this side. I was totally motivated by being able to visually see progress. Another motivation is mastery. People that are motivated by mastery, what they want to do is they want to develop their skill to a level of excellence. In other words, they love what they're doing, but they want to do it even better. And so their whole motivation is that they want to improve who they are, and they want to improve what they do. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. This is a big motivation in my life. I love to work my writings and make them better. I love to work my teachings and my lessons and upgrade them. In fact, whenever I do a teaching I've done before, I always give it plenty of time to upgrade it and tweak it and make it better. Mastery, doing work with excellence is very appealing to me. Well, maybe on your team you've got some people that's very appealing to them. That's what motivates them. Recognition, that's a huge motivation for a lot of people. They really want to do something where their peers applaud them and say, look how well you're doing. They want to go to that next level in the business. They want to have that award. They want to go to that banquet. They want to be applauded. They want to be recognized. It's a wonderful thing to love what you're doing and then have people that you care for applaud you because you do it so well. Recognition is a huge motivation for a lot of people. And then the last is money. A lot of people, they're motivated by money. In fact, there's a high possibility that you joined Unique because you wanted extra income, or you wanted to really be your own boss and set a high ceiling or no ceiling at all for how much you could do and how much you could make. So money motivates a lot of people. Now, I just gave you 7 motivations, and I would encourage you, when you get a chance, since you've written those 7 motivations down, if you want to know more about it, again, it's in a chapter of my book on the leader's greatest return. Just look at those motivations and ask yourself the question, what's my number 1 motivation? What's my number 2? What you're going to find is you out of 7 may have, 3, maybe even 4 of motivations that are pretty high for you. Here's what I know. You want to be led by what motivates you. And the people on your team, they want to be led by what motivates them. So your ability to know them, to connect with them, to ask questions, to find out what motivates them. In fact, I would encourage you, Do this together with your team. Sit down and say, okay, these are the 7 motivations that John Maxwell teaches. Let's look at these motivations together and let's find out what motivates us. In fact, this will be very eye-opening. Your understanding will just really increase, because let's say you have 8 or 10 key players on your team. What would happen if you spent some time on those 7 motivations and you went around until you knew what was the number one motivator for everybody on your team? Guess how much better you'll be able to lead them now, because you're going to lead them not according to what you want, you're going to lead them according to what they want. So connecting matters. Wow. Personal growth matters. Let me give you the third, because there's 5. There's 5 things that they're essential. If you'll do those every day, if you'll grow every day, if you'll connect every day, that this will compound you, and everybody's going to get better after they just learn and apply what I'm talking about today. The third power of 5 is your mindset. How you and I think. Mindset matters. In fact, mindset matters big time. I think the greatest gap between successful and unsuccessful people is the mindset gap, the thinking gap, how people think. Wow. In fact, the first book I ever wrote, I've written over 80. The first book I ever wrote was a book called Think on These Things. Because I understood, the first thing I wanted to write was to teach people on what kind of things to think about. And one of my best-selling books, sold well over 1 million books, is a book on how successful people think. And I learned this from my father. My father was very successful. And so one evening we were talking about thinking correctly, having the right mindset that would really give you the return that you need in life. And my dad told me this incredible story. He said, I was young, and he said, right toward the end of Depression, and nobody had jobs, and everybody was in a food line, and everybody financially was just in terrible, terrible shape. And so he said, I looked at everybody not having a job, and so he said, I decided to do something a little bit unique and creative. He said, I would go like to a hardware store, and I would meet the owner, and I say to them, I know that this is a tough financial time for you, and I know you can't afford me, but could I work for free for you today? And the store owner said, well, what do you mean, work for free? He said, well, I like to work, and I know you can't afford me, so could I just give you a free day of work? In fact, tell me what you need to get done here, and I'll help you. I'll be glad to help you. And my dad would spend all day doing chores for the hardware store, and department. And at the end of the day, he'd come and shake hands with the owner and say, thank you for letting me work for you today. I really enjoyed it. And, the hardware store would kind of be half apologetic. So, well, you worked hard, and I wish I could give you something. No. Dad said, I know. He said, we started off with the agreement that you couldn't give me anything. It's okay. I just wanted to help you. Well, the store owner would say, you really worked hard, young man. You helped me a lot. And then my dad would say, if you will ever be at a place where you can afford maybe, some part-time work, he said, would you remember me? Remember how hard I worked? What a good attitude I have? And he'd give him his contact information, and he would say goodbye to him. And the next day, my dad would go to another store, and he would do the same thing. And then the next day to another store, and the next day to another store. And the little town where they lived, before the first month was over, doing this every day, working for free for somebody, my dad had 3 part-time jobs. Everybody else is standing in line because they don't have any job, and my dad has 3. Same town, same time, same situation. What's the difference? Mindset. Mindset matters. My father thought differently than other people thought. His thinking, his mindset separated him and gave him success where other people didn't get that success. This is absolutely amazing. And the moment that we begin to think the right thoughts, for example, people ask me all the time, they'll say, John, how do successful people think? And I share with them that successful people, First of all, they think intentionally, not unintentionally. They turn good intentions into good actions. They understand that everything worthwhile. I wish I had 30 minutes to teach this lesson, but everything worthwhile is uphill. They understand that, and they realize to go uphill, they have to be intentional. You don't accidentally climb a hill. You may accidentally fall down, but you don't accidentally climb a hill. And successful people understand that. And successful people spend their life being intentional in the things that they do. And they realize that one of the things they do with their mindset is they believe in themselves and they believe in what they share, their product, their company. They have a high belief in themselves and they have a high belief in what they're doing. They believe what they're doing makes a difference for each other, and they believe that because they're doing it, it makes a difference. You see, if you have low personal belief and low purpose belief, you won't even get started. Now, if you have high personal belief, in other words, I really am confident and believe in myself, but I have low purpose belief, I'm not sure I really believe in the product, I won't continue. I'll just flame out. If I have low personal belief but high purpose belief, then I'll have a dream, but I'll never reach it because my low personal belief will hold me back. But when here's where you want to go with this mindset. You want to have high personal belief, I can do it, and high purpose belief. What I do makes a difference. And this is just absolutely life-changing. Whenever I do seminars on mindset and how to think, I share with them just some what I call mindset thoughts. Mindset thoughts like, there's always an answer. Now that's huge. That's a mindset, because there are a lot of people, they think there isn't an answer. So when they get to a problem, they give up because they say, well, I just don't know how to do it. I don't think there's a way to do it. And so they just let go. If you believe there's always an answer, you just stay totally in the game. You do. Because you know there's an answer. It's just a matter of time. Some people have a mindset of abundance, where other people have a mindset of scarcity. If I have a mindset of scarcity, I always think there's not enough to go around, so I'll be very selfish. If I have a mindset of abundance, I'll share and wish other people success and help other people be successful. Wow. How about failure? The mindset for failure is huge. You see, we make a mistake with failure and success. We try to separate them. That's wrong. That's a mistake. That's not reality. So we put success way over here and say you want to be successful. We put failure way over here. We say, now you don't want to fail. You want to be successful. And we play either or. I'm either successful or I fail or I fail. And they're never to be separated. Success and failure always go together. Don't miss this. Don't miss it. I've never met a successful person that didn't have a lot of failures in their life. There's no such thing as just success, 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 success. There's success, and then there's mistakes and failures and losses, and then you get back up and some more success, and it's a slow climb, but it's a climb with integrity, because failure teaches us lessons that we need to learn to become successful. And success gives us confidence that when we do fail, we can change and we can learn and we can improve. And so they need to go together. They need to always be together. The mindset of, if I'm going to be successful and unique, I'm going to have some mess ups. I'm going to have some misses. It's okay. And when you have those messes or misses, they're not final. You say, okay, I didn't do well here, but I'm going to get back in the arena of action. I was having a conversation with a very, very successful person, an executive, a CEO of a major, a world-renowned company. And we were talking about his failures. And I looked at him and I said, talk to me for a moment about your mess-ups, your misses, your failures in life. Would you like to go back and have another shot at them? And would you like to do them over? Would you like to go back to a certain time when you made a bad decision and do it over? Would you like to look at something that you failed in and have another chance to do it? Would you like to go back and have some do-overs? His answer surprised me. He said, no. He said, not really. Wow. Not really? You don't want to go back at your misses and messes in life and do them over? He said, no. He said, now I've had some failures. I've had some mistakes. I've had some messes. So it's not that I've done it perfect. He said, no one does it perfect. We have success and failure. He said, I keep them together. But here's what he said that was life-changing. He said, the lessons I learned from my failures were the most important lessons I've ever learned. Those lessons changed me and made me a better person. Without those lessons, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So when you ask me, do I want to go back and do them over? I don't, because I would miss the lesson. If I missed the lesson, I wouldn't be who I am. And I don't want to do that. I'll take the failures and the losses because the lessons that have made me today who I am. So no, my character, my inner being is much greater because of what I learned from my failures and from my losses. That's huge. Now, that's the kind of mindset I'm talking about. That's the right kind of mindset. So we're learning the power of 5 at Unique. And these 5 things, if you do them every day, because they're everyday essentials, they'll help you to be very successful in this organization. Personal growth, oh my. Personal growth really matters. I can only build my business to the size that my business can be. And connecting and relating with others, those are essential. I've got to every day relate, connect. I've got to know how to lead. And if I'm going to lead, I've got to find people. I got to know what their motivations are. Oh yeah, connecting matters. It sure doesn't. Oh, by the way, yes, mindset matters. How I think is going to determine how well I do in this work, in this business. Number 4, leading matters. Now, of course, you would expect that to be in my life because I'm known as the leadership expert in the world, and I do a lot of leadership teaching. Now, let me share with you why I consistently write books and train and teach leaders. You see, when I was very young, I had a nonprofit organization that by the time I was 28, I had the 10th largest nonprofit of its type organization in the world. And people came to me and said, how have you built this organization? How have you been so successful in it? And honestly, in the beginning, I wasn't sure how to answer them. But as I gave it time to reflect and had conversations with people, I realized that I knew how to lead. I was a good leader. And it was at that time that I began to become convinced that everything rises and falls on leadership. The reason I teach leadership, now I've been teaching leadership, hang on, for 50 years. And the reason I'm still passionate about leadership is because I still know everything rises and falls in leadership. In the history of mankind, no organization has grown beyond its level of leadership. No organization has kind of got on top and no. Your leadership is your lid. So if I'm a 5 leader, my business is going to be a 4. No matter what company I work for, no matter what country I live in, it doesn't matter. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, here's the good news. You can grow as a leader. You can develop your leadership. I know. Many, many years ago, I wrote a groundbreaking book called Developing the Leader Within You. And it was a book all about how you can develop yourself to be a better leader. So let's go back to my visual illustration. If my leadership lid is a 5, I'm an average leader from a 1 to a 10, then my business in Unique is a 4. But all of a sudden, I learn and grow my leadership. I become a better leader. And over time, I go from a 5 to a 6 to a 7. Oh, my gosh. Maybe to an 8. Now that I have lifted my leadership lid, what happens to my business in Unique? My business goes from a 4 to a 5 to a 6 to a 7. You see, as I lift my leadership lid, I lift my business. And that's why I teach leadership. That's why I train leaders. That's why I write leadership books, because everything rises and falls on leadership. No doubt about it. And that's why I want you to learn how to lead. Now, you have to be patient.
All of these essentials that I'm giving you, it takes time. You don't learn them immediately. In fact, in my book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I talk about the law of process. And the law of process just simply says leaders develop daily, not in a day. So you don't learn to lead quickly, just like you don't learn to connect quickly. It's a process. It's not how long will it take, it's how far can I go. But here's what I know. As you learn to lead successfully, the more that you can influence people, better that you can lead people, the better you're going to build your incredible business. And that's why I'm with you today. I want you to build your business. Help other people. Okay, it's the power of 5, and I've given you 4 so far. But there's a 5th one that is just, I don't want you to miss this one either. So let's talk about number 5 for a moment. Significance matters. Wow. I've been asked many times the question, John, if I want to live a fulfilling life, what advice do you have for me? And my advice is always the same. If you want to live a fulfilling life, live a life that adds value to other people. And that's how I define significance. Significance is intentionally adding value to people on a daily basis. Now, success, I want you to have that too. Success is all about me. It's all about you. So I'm successful. I'm building my unique business, and I'm growing, and I'm going up to different levels, and I'm a success. But basically, success is all about my career and how much money I make and what I'm doing for myself or for my family and where I live and the cars that I drive. Success is it's about me. Significance is all about others. I've known a lot of successful people in life, and many of them are not happy because you don't find happiness if you're selfish. Now, significant people, they're always fulfilled. They're always happy because they live a life for other people. Wow. 50 years ago, I began my journey towards significance. It looks simply like this. I want to make a difference with people who want to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference at a time when it makes a difference. I also want to encourage you. I wrote a book called The Power of 5. And in this book, I talk about these 5 things in depth of how you can grow and develop yourself. But let me close with this. As I've given you now, you've got them, don't you? You've got the power of 5, the 5 things that are everyday essential. Every day, what do I do? Every day I personally grow. Makes a difference. Every day I connect with people. Every day I have the right mindset. I think the right things. Every day I lead and learn to lead well. And every day I add value to people. Those are the 5 essentials. So I can still remember many, many years ago when I was in my 20s, I received a book for a Christmas gift. And I opened the package, and the title of the book was The Greatest Story Ever Told. And I thought, oh my gosh, I love to read. This is the greatest story ever told. I could hardly wait to open up the book. And when I opened it up, much to my surprise, there were no words on the pages. They were all blank. I mean, from front to back, just blank pages of paper. And the person that gave me the gift, she was there, and I looked at her and said, I don't understand. It says on the outside, the greatest story ever told, but there's no story. She smiled, and she said, well, go to right behind the front cover, and I did. And there she had written these words to me, John, your life is before you. You fill these pages with words of hope, words that express the dream that you have for your life. Words that will make a difference in the lives of people. You fill this book with your dream, and you write the greatest story ever told. And I did it. The next day, I started writing in that book, and over the next few weeks, I filled that book up with my hopes, my dreams, my prayers, my thoughts. Wow. I just want you to know that you have a book in your hand today. It's entitled The Greatest Story Ever Told, but the pages are blank. You see, don't let anyone else write your story. You write your story. Because you were created, you were designed to write this story and to live out this story and to be this story. And when you fulfill that and live that life of adding value to people and significance, truly, you will write the greatest story ever told. The Power of 5. Everyday essentials. Every day, I personally grow. Every day, I connect with people. Every day, I have a mindset that thinks the right things. Every day, I lead well. And every day, I do something that adds value to other people and live that life of significance.
What is the one or several mistakes that businesses make during a crisis?
Well, I think, and when you ask about businesses, I think it's true with business. I think it's true with humans. In a business perspective, I think one of the challenging things is to put people first when you know you're going to get financially hit, because you have a business to make some money, to have a good bottom line. Well, this isn't helping the bottom line. And so I think that the leader is wrestling constantly between what's best for the business and what's best for the people. Now, here's what I do believe. I believe that what's sometimes best for the people is not best for the business.
Right.
So, and I think that that's where the values come in. If I value my business and the money more than I do the people, then guess what kind of a decision I'm going to make? I'm going to put the business first. So here's what I say. Put people first. You may take a financial hit for that, but when you walk down the street and you look at them, you can look at them in the eye. And you can have the integrity of knowing, okay, I lost a lot of money, but I treated you right.
Wow.
I think that. I mean, think about it. You have to live with yourself. And if you have to live with yourself, you really want to make sure that you always put the people first. I think that's the right thing to do. I think that's always in a business.
Yeah.
And then you have these huge issues that you have to deal with of letting people go. I mean, a lot of times you're letting really great people go because the business can't sustain it right now at this time, or you're putting them on some kind of leave or furlough. And let me tell you something, that should be very hurtful to the leader.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I see a leader flippantly cut people or let them go, I said, wow, I don't think you love the people. You may love the business, but I'm not sure you love the people. And I tell leaders all the time, when you stop loving people, quit leading them. Because when you stop loving them, Mark, you know what you start doing? You start manipulating them. And that's always wrong.
That's exactly right. You know, I had a friend call me, Ricky, called me last week, has 2,000 employees. The next day, he was going to have to let 500 of them go.
Yeah, wow.
25%.
Horrible.
And he said, Mark, do you have some coaches that can come in and help this leadership team cope with how they're going to deal with letting some people go at this point? And one is, I thought it was a big statement of him. The people that are staying, he's working to get them some support, somebody to work with, somebody to think with.
Well, I think that's really
But
good.
It goes to this thing. We've got to social distance. John and I are social distancing today, but you can't relationally distance.
No.
We've got to find people that'll walk with us. And John, you are helping me tremendously. You're on camera, you're helping the world. Off camera, you're helping me. I'm leading in a way that I've never led before.
No, you haven't been there before.
In fact, that goes to the next question. Watch this. It's from Kamiko. And I love this question. This just came in. Kamiko, thank you for asking this. What advice would you give to your younger self about crisis and adversity? Let's say you were 20 years younger, maybe me, John. What advice would you give me? I mean, your younger self.
I've got a great smart aleck answer for that. Because what advice would I give to my younger self?
I would give my younger self the advice of listening to the older self. I would just say, hey, young John, listen to old John. He's been through a few battles and through wars. It's a great question. It deserves better than a kind of flippant, funny answer. and the fact, here's what I do believe, though. When I was a young leader, I wish I would have spent more time with people that were more experienced and successful. I did good, but I didn't do great.
Yeah.
Let's just put it this way: I could have done a lot better, Mark. And it's not. I'm not putting a premium on old age or even experience, because there's some fantastic things that youth bring you as far as energy and risk and things. So it's not like experienced people have it over inexperienced people, but they have, for sure, if they're successful. Now, I'm talking about only successful people. I'm not talking about old people. I'm not talking about people who worked all their life. I'm talking about people who've worked all their life and they're successful. Here's what I know. Here's what I know. The questions you have for someone older that's experienced and successful, they've experienced the question you're going to ask. Oh. Now, that's huge. There's one thing for me to know how to answer your question, and there's another thing for me to have experienced your question.
Wow.
And the difference is, if I've experienced your question, I can give you wisdom, especially if I was teachable and successful. If I answer your question without the experience, I can just give you a good answer. But what you're really needing during a crisis is wisdom, not just a good answer. In fact, I tell young people, you already have a good answer, you just don't have wisdom going with it.
Yeah. So
you're a little unarmed. You know what is right, but you don't know why it's right, how it's right, when it's right. It's the experience that gives you that outer coating that makes you really solid.
You know what I love about that answer, John, is just a few days ago, I asked John a question, something about how to deal with something in the crisis. Do we make a decision now? Do we wait? Mm-hmm. And John, you said, you very rarely do you say this to me, and hear me all the way out here. You said, man, Mark, I don't know. I've never led in this kind of a time. But then very quickly, it gave me comfort. You know what? I'm leading in unprecedented times, and my mentor, 20 years my senior, doesn't know either. I mean, he experiences, I don't know, but then very quickly went, but let me tell you what we did when 9/11 hit. Let me tell you when my ISS company, a stewardship company that John had that's raised $4 billion for nonprofits. Let me tell you what we did during that time. Yeah. So asking somebody, and let me get the name again, Kamiko, asking somebody or getting somebody that has more experience, that has done something, is very good. They may not have led here, or they may not have led exactly in your situation, but they can give you experience based on another time that reminds a lesson in how you walk through it.
That's very insightful and it's very good, Mark. And I would just say this. When I give Mark my mentoring or my experienced answers, I then let him make that decision. I think the trouble that we older people get into is when people ask for advice, we want to control. And I've never had you come and say, John, could you control my life for me? You've asked for advice. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And advice means I give you my best thoughts, my best shots, my best wisdom. But then you've got to go make that decision.
Yep. Because
how are you going to get the experience if you don't go make that decision on your own? So I think that as an older person, a mentor or whatever, I have to always remember what my place is. My place is to give you everything I can give you, the very best that I can give you. But at the end of that, then bless you and say, now it's yours. You become a better leader by making the decision. You don't become a better leader by me controlling you.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of us young leaders, if you'll allow me to call myself young, I don't think I qualify for that anymore. But just
in
for
my eyes, you qualify.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Say more.
You look awfully young to me.
But for those of
Too young.
those of us that are really working hard to lead. And I've had some brand new opportunities to lead in January, only 6 weeks later to be hit with the coronavirus that's becoming the corona financial virus as well. And I'll tell you this is what I've told you, John, and I want to encourage some of you that are leading and wanting to lead. Lead through this. Lead through this. The moral authority of the previous generation came when they led through difficult times that they had never led before. And John, I want 6 months a year. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I want 6 months to a year for you to go, wow, Mark's a great leader. I picked him. I like him. Man, he gained moral authority in this one.
Yeah,
that's my commitment to you.
Well, you're going to do that. That's going to happen to you. And you can't get moral authority in a classroom. You don't get moral authority through knowledge. You don't get moral authority through position or title. You get moral authority by taking people through a leadership crisis successfully. And you're going to get that. But what I think I want the listeners to hear right now is that that you and I have high odds of losing millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You just need to hear that, okay? And yet, we're still thinking of the people first. We're still keeping our values. We're still thinking clearly. We still have a real sense of peace. And we don't know the outcome. And I think that's powerful. That's where you get moral authority.
Yep.
On the back end, everybody can brag and lie, but in the middle, there's no bragging and lying here. This thing this thing could put you under. This thing could put me. Who knows where it's all going to go. But can I tell you something? There's an expression that Alan Malawi taught me, who was that great leader at Ford Motor Company when he turned that around. And that when things would go that he didn't always like or just challenges he had to make, I loved his expression when he just always said, "It's okay."
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yep,
it's okay. And all he was saying is, "I'll figure it out. There's always an answer. Don't have it now, but it's okay." And what I want you to see about this is that when you have that sense of sense that there is an answer, and you have that sense of confidence within yourself, what that means is it really works in the bad times. See, don't miss this.
That's right.
Don't miss this. Everybody's secure when everything's going their way and confident when everything. But we're telling you right now, I feel secure. I feel confident. I feel confident. I'm going to lose some money, but I feel confident that there's still an answer, and there's a way that we're going to find the answer. It's okay. And I want you to see that. Enough about our situation. Let's get back on your situation.